Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
Sunny Hostin just had a full-on meltdown, and no, you can't blame it on Mercury in retrograde this time. Greg Gutfeld called her out so hard, even the teleprompter couldn't keep up, glitching like crazy. Hypocrisy, exposed, drama, off the charts, tissues, flying off the shelves. If you've ever wanted to watch someone unravel faster than a knockoff wig in a wind tunnel, buckle up. Because this was the showdown everyone saw coming. Especially if you've ever watched The View and... Trust me, you won't believe what Sunny said after the cameras stopped rolling.
I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly, it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that
Sunny Hostin finally cracked. And not just the usual light cracking that happens every day on The View when someone asks a question more complicated than, what's your favorite color? No, this was a full-blown, high-definition, 4K Ultra HD televised breakdown. And it was all thanks to one man, Greg Gutfeld. In just 2 minutes, Gutfeld exposed more hypocrisy than The View has managed to ignore in the past 20 years.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else those.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
It all started like any typical Tuesday on The View, meaning the opening was packed with group therapy energy, loud affirmations, endless back-patting, and a collective agreement that once again they were heroically saving democracy. One misinformed opinion at a time. Front and center, as always, was Sunny Hostin, playing legal expert the way a teenager plays Guitar Hero, enthusiastically but terribly. Sunny delivered her usual deep insights like, everything bad is someone else's fault, and facts are totally optional, as long as you say them passionately enough.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news.
If you've never watched The View, just picture the comment section of a political Facebook page. But hosted by people who once skimmed a Wikipedia article about the Constitution and decided they were experts. Sunny Hostin fits right in. She's the group's so-called voice of reason, if your definition of reason includes screaming threat to democracy anytime someone dares to challenge her latte-fueled worldview.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
But then, oh sweet karma, Greg Gutfeld decided to get involved. And that's when the real fun began. See, Greg Gutfeld isn't what you'd call polished in the traditional sense. He's more like that smartass at a dinner party who says what everyone's thinking but is too polite to blurt out. And apparently, no one told Sunny that sarcasm is still legal in most states. Because the minute Greg started pointing out her greatest hits of hypocrisy, Sunny collapsed faster than a deck chair in a hurricane. First up, Sunny's magical ability to demand civil discourse, despite spending weeks labeling half the country as democracy-destroying goblins. Civil discourse, according to Sunny. Only if you agree with her 100%. Otherwise, you're basically an accomplice to murder. It's a glorious disaster, a mashup of courtroom drama meets middle school lunch table politics. But Greg wasn't done. Oh no, he went full forensic accountant on her, pulling up receipts like he was auditing her entire public career. 1 minute, Sunny's weeping over the evils of family separations at the border. Fast forward to when her preferred administration did the exact same thing. And suddenly it's all just complicated policy nuances the rest of us simpletons could never possibly understand. Hypocrisy? Sunny practically embroidered it on a throw pillow.
I'm going to milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Do you think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing.
Greg laid it all out. Sunny's outrage hits a light switch. On when a conservative sneezes, off when a liberal face plants into the Constitution, she's the type to demand investigations over a politician's questionable tweet while defending leaders who couldn't spell ethics, even if you spotted them the E and the T, and the best part. The audience at The View responded exactly how you'd expect, like a loyal congregation. Gutfeld could have handed them a photo album of Sunny's contradictions, personally autographed by Sunny herself, and they still would have booed him for spreading hate. Naturally, Sunny did what any modern TV personality would do. She played the victim faster than you can say audience sympathy. With a trembling voice and tears so rehearsed you could tell she's had media training 3 times this year, Sunny spun Gutfeld's criticism into a full-blown assault on all women, all minorities, and probably every rescue puppy within a 10-mile radius. Because when you can't win the argument, you just expand the battlefield until you're fighting on pure emotion.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there.
Sunny, who spent years casually calling millions of Americans vile names from her comfy throne at ABC, suddenly wept on cue because someone dared to point out that she contradicts herself more often than a motivational speaker with commitment. News. It was emotional gymnastics at its finest. The kind that would earn a gold medal if Olympic judges scored based on a total lack of self-awareness. And The View? They circled the wagons faster than cowboys in an old western. Only instead of defending against outlaws, they were defending Sunny from the mortal danger of being fact-checked. Whoopi Goldberg even jumped in with a rousing pep talk, which basically boiled down to, remember, facts are a social construct. if you just feel strongly enough about it. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, producers reportedly scrambled to manage Sunny's emotional meltdown, treating it like a national emergency, as if getting called out for public hypocrisy wasn't just another Tuesday for anyone in politics or media. You'd think she'd be used to it by now. But no, this time was different. This time someone actually had the receipts.
Joy Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self-righteousness.
This was Greg Gutfeld daring to point out that the Emperor had no clothes, while the Emperor sobbed into her designer coffee mug. Social media. It had an absolute field day. Within minutes, Twitter was flooded with memes. One brutal post showed Sunny with the caption, "Strong opinions, weak spine." Another had her crying on The View with the tagline, "When you realize receipts don't lie." Even people who normally avoid political drama started noticing. Turns out when you spend years whining about civility while trashing half the country, folks tend to remember. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld's segment exploded online. His simple, sarcastic takedown of Sunny's greatest hits resonated with everyone who's sick of being gaslit by the same 3 cable news talking points recycled every week like old bathwater. It was a masterclass in exposing the reality. The BG View isn't a discussion. It's a live-action Tumblr thread with a studio audience and better lighting. It's not a debate. It's a synchronized swimming routine where everyone agrees on the choreography ahead of time, and anyone who cannonballs into the pool gets booed for violence.
But unlike this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. You make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named ugly.
What made it even more delicious was watching The View scramble to reframe the entire disaster. Suddenly, this wasn't about Sunny's hypocrisy. Oh no. This was about protecting women from public attacks. It was about standing up to bullying. Apparently, these days, pointing out contradictions qualifies as a federal hate crime. In reality, The View is just a safe space for unchallenged ideas, a place where adult conversation goes to die. Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts aren't interested in debate. They're hosting a daily self-esteem seminar disguised as political commentary. And the second someone brings in logic, consistency, or, heaven forbid, sarcasm, the whole set crumbles. Faster than a dollar store umbrella in a hurricane. Sunny's meltdown was inevitable. She's been building her tower of hypocrisy for years, brick by brick, contradictory statement by contradictory statement. Greg Gutfeld simply did the unthinkable. He sneezed, and the whole thing collapsed.
Did you watch the whole thing, or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, what I would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism.
And of course, because no modern meltdown is complete without a rebranding, Sunny launched into a teary-eyed sermon about growth and the courage to be vulnerable. Translation. Please forget that I got caught playing Calvin ball with my own principles on live TV. Honestly, it was almost impressive watching The View spin a full-on exposure of lies and double standards into a teachable moment about healing. It could have been the plot of a new Marvel movie. The gaslighters assemble. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld just kept on winning. No anger, no outrage. Just that same smug smirk that drives the professionally offended absolutely insane. He knows the game. The second you point out the Emperor's nakedness, they accuse you of attacking body positivity. And poor Sunny, she's stuck in a loop. Every time she tries to pivot back to moral superiority, someone brings up that tiny little incident where she melted down faster than butter in a microwave when confronted with her own words. She's become a living meme.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
You're seeing an eternal example of what happens when emotional manipulation meets actual accountability. In a just world, The View would take this moment to reflect. Maybe, just maybe, consider hosting guests with different perspectives to encourage genuine debate. They might rediscover the lost art of talking like adults without needing a fainting couch every time someone disagrees. But let's be real, the odds of The View embracing intellectual honesty are about as good as Sunny Hostin winning a Pulitzer. Prize for political courage. Instead, we can fully expect The View's next few episodes to feature emotional support, llamas, guided breathing exercises, and a 3-part series called Why Feelings Are More Important Than Facts, an exploration featuring Sunny. She'll keep claiming the high ground, mistaking altitude for morality, delivering speeches about how truth matters, all while avoiding anything resembling actual truth like it's radioactive. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld will keep doing what he does best, reminding America that the Emperor isn't just naked. He's demanding a standing ovation for his wardrobe.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in again.
If nothing else, Sunny's meltdown gave us all a gift. A beautiful televised reminder that hypocrisy eventually eats itself alive. You can only lie to yourself and your audience for so long before someone, somewhere points and laughs. And boy, did we laugh. In the end, Sunny Hostin's breakdown wasn't just about being exposed. It wasn't even about politics. It was about the inevitable collision between fragile egos, manufactured outrage, and the cold, hard wall of reality. But The View spun the wheel, and this time, it landed on humiliation.